Simon, thanks for your time. 3 more signings coming in for 2025. How significant are they, all 3 from Lee Leopards?
Obviously, experienced players. So obviously Zach has won. I think he's won everything in the British game. Very experienced player. Ollie Holmes has obviously been around a long time. Again, the experience is the key word I'm going to keep using here, particularly for them two. Obviously, we've got a lot of young blokes this year, and we're hoping to push them through, I think, as a club over the next few years, and having some senior boys in there that can show them what being a good pro is, how to train and such. That'll be really good for them, and hopefully a lot of their qualities can rub off. Yes, in age they are getting on a bit, but I think if you look across the league now, generally people are playing till later and later in terms of the years. So I'm sure they've still got plenty in them yet, and it's not just about the rugby, it's bringing people in other areas as well in the wider squad. And then Ed, obviously we've had a look at Ed up close, and I was really impressed with him. I've watched Ed play loads of times. I know lads who my brother's played with him, I think, or been in squads with him for Ireland over the years, and no one's got a bad word to say. And then seeing it up front and how he carries himself and how he trains, his versatility is obviously very important. And at 27, 28, he's still got plenty in front of him. So I think, fans will have their opinion, of course, on all of them, but they have seen Ed in a whole shirt this year, and I think everyone was quite impressed with what he brought in that short period of time, and I'm sure he'll do that for the time he spends with us.
You mentioned the experience of the 3, but how important will that winning mentality be of the 3 as well? They've all, of course, won the Challenge Cup last season with Lee, and as you say, Zach Hardacre's won pretty much everything there is to win the British game. Obviously
very important. I mean, this year I've almost forgot what it's like to win on occasion, and you're getting blokes that are coming from a team that's over the last couple of years has certainly won more than its fair share, and with their experience of playing in big games and such, it'll add value to our squad.
6 signings now confirmed for 2025. How would you assess the club's recruitment so far for next year?
6, a decent number, isn't it? Probably a reflection of where we're at as a club. I think we're going to be better. I think, looking ahead, obviously all your recruitment's in an effort to get better, but I think my opinion would be this is, as it was Tony's opinion, and a very unpopular one, I think, that it's not an overnight fix. One swing of the axe and change, a load of blokes in one shot. He's not going to be, it's not going to be grand final winners overnight. That has to be the end goal. Otherwise, why are you involved in it? But we all have to understand that it didn't take an overnight fall from, where the heights of the club in 2016, 17, I think it was, when they were doing well on both fronts, Challenge Cup winners obviously, and doing okay in the league there. We have to all understand that it's a process to work back towards that, and a lot of good stuff will happen along that way. And part of my involvement at the moment, with Franny, Jason, and the lads in the other room there, is about making sure we develop these young kids to be part of it, because obviously there's no point in waxing lyrical, to use some Super League terms, Steve-O, coming out there, about these younger fellas. They can't be forgotten in 3 months when we swing into the next pre-season. We have to make the future about them as much as it is about these new blokes coming in. But yeah, I think there's rhyme and reason for all of them, really, the gaps that need to be filled, but it's going to be a long process. Listen, we could prove everyone wrong and go great, obviously, and I'd absolutely love that. That'd be mega. But realistically, going from the bottom end to the top, it's not going to happen overnight. We have to be patient with it.
In terms of those other gaps, I know it'll be something that Richie Marlow will be working in conjunction with John Cartwright about, but where do you think there are further gaps that need filling for next year, either positionally or in terms of experience and character?
Tough one to answer, because I'm not sure where they're at with other options for signings, and obviously some retention that still needs to be worked through, I think. Look, we just want to get better, and they're questions for Richie really are in terms of a strategy of how we're recruiting and what we want and what we need. My job next year will be same as it is now, I suppose, to try and work with the group that you've got in front of you and try and make them better. And I think depth, though, I think that'd be one thing for me. Depth. I've seen this year where we got between bans and injuries early doors, I think our lack of depth probably got exposed really early there, and chucking a lot of young kids in as we have over the year. And although invaluable experience for him, we don't really want to get caught in that position again, I don't think.
One more that may well be for Richie as well, but from what you know, given the number of departures that you've had recently, where are you at in terms of trying to strengthen the group for this season?
This season, very difficult. So yeah, we've had obviously people outgoing, which, for whatever reason, tough to get them coming back the other way. Unfortunately, we're in a position where either teams don't want to help us or can't, and I'd hope it's more they can't help us, because obviously everyone's going through their own stuff, issues, injuries, and so on and so forth. So it's difficult for teams to let them out. So yeah, that's the position we find ourselves in, and it is what it is. You've got to take your medicine when this happens and try to find that silver lining, which is these young blokes are getting more time. It's probably a bit too many at once at times, but it is what it is. We just have to get on with it.
Of course, the latest player that you've lost is Ben Reynolds. How disappointed are you to see him go?
Bizarre scenario, to be honest. All happened very fast. I was absolutely oblivious. I probably found out 10 minutes before it ended up reaching the papers or whatever anyway. So, yeah, disappointing, the timing of it. But listen, I'm not going to speak ill of Ben. I'm sure he's got his reasons to move on and secure his future elsewhere. That's his prerogative at the end of it all. But yeah, disappointing in terms of the timing and what it means for us at the moment. But again, it is what it is.
And how big a blow is it, particularly given how much we've seen Jake Truman benefit from having...
Yeah, well, we were only speaking last week about... I think I was asked the question, what's Benny brought? I don't know if it was yourself, Dan, I can't remember, but we spoke about how he's probably freed up Truey a little bit. Truey's been finding his feet, and I think, although not perfect by any means, we still weren't where we'd like to be, but it was looking a bit more joined up, I think is probably the way I'd put it. But yeah, again, it is what it is. We can't drag Benny back in here and force him. So yeah, we'll move on. We've got other options, and we'll go with them.
We'll get on to those options in a minute. You said you found out very quickly between when it was reported and when it happened. Is it the case that the club didn't offer him terms for next season, that's why he's decided to move on?
I've got a bit of a story, but it's not for me to share. I think there was an understanding in place, but obviously Ben's chose to go his own way.
What are your options then in terms of filling that other half-back spot? What are you looking at currently?
We've got potential positional shifts for some. Charlesley, who's nursing a bit of a knock, he's trained all right today. We'll have to check on that one, like we will a number of blocks this week. We'll be checking at the very last minute to see what it looks like. Obviously Morgan Smith's played half for us already this year, so that won't be too early into him. So it's a little bit of an unknown, if I'm perfectly honest. We've squad tomorrow, I think, is it? It will Thursday, tomorrow. So yeah, we'll name a squad that covers us for the number of blokes that we've got some question marks over. And listen, it is what it is. Like, whatever team goes out there, it might not be the most experienced or prettiest in terms of the names on paper, but we still have an expectation to go out and have a dig and put a shift in. We won't roll over regardless, but we're going to be up against it a bit, against a very good Hull KR team, and you wouldn't expect them to have a day off or take it easy on you, in these circumstances. From me as I'm not a whole boy or whatever, from the outside looking in, I think obviously the black and white side have had a long time looking down on the red and white side, and the balance has swung the other way, that the scale's swung, hasn't it? And we have to eat a little bit humble pie at the moment on that one and work ourselves back into that picture of a good rivalry, a strong rivalry where we're both really challenging at the right end. But yeah, at the moment it's tough. It's tough for all of us, but we'll keep getting on with it.
In terms of your injuries ahead of the derby, will Danny Houghton make it?
I'd say extremely unlikely. He's had a scan on his calf injury there just to get to the bottom of it and get all the information. But yeah, at the moment I'd say very unlikely.
And Linky Salzwell with the rib injury that he suffered, what did you find out about that?
we haven't found much out. We've obviously checked on him. He's been in with the physios. I think he's copped a pretty decent whack as opposed to sort of a muscular injury. And ribs can be very uncomfortable when you get some knocks in around there. So he's another one who we're going to leave it as long as we can before we make that choice.
Have you got any other players out or any other players returning for this one?
Trying to think.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I don't think we've got it. We've got Jack Ash, Jada missing at the moment, in amongst a couple of other bits and bobs. Obviously today we've had a lot of young kids training with us, which has been really good as well. Those young lads that have been going well are joining in with us now. They've finished the college element, so they're going to come join us a bit and get a bit of exposure. So a lot of fresh faces in and around it today, and they'd all put their hand up, I'm sure. But yeah, we need to be smart about how we do it, and the smartest way to do it at the moment is name a 21 with hopefully 17 fit bodies in it, and see what it looks like on Saturday.
Just on Jack Ashworth.
Friday, rather.
Yeah, on Jack Ashworth, he's been in this room with a boot on, having had his operation. I think last week you said 8 weeks was the time frame, but is it looking more likely that he probably won't play again this season as well?
No, I think we're hopeful. Of course, we are positioned where we don't have, as I said, a lot of left over the course of the season. We haven't been able to bring as many in as we would have liked. And losing Jack is obviously a big blow. Not only just Jack the player, but I mean the position that we're not got great depth in that position of men, if you like, experienced players there. So disappointing. And if Jack can get back this year, he'll definitely get back. He's got a bit of downtime at the minute because there's not a lot he can do but heal. But once that boot comes off, I think the progression's pretty quick if all goes well. So hopefully we see him again.
You mentioned the derby. You're first in the hot seat as head coach, will be interim. How are you feeling about it?
It's just another game to a degree. Trying to prepare best we can. That's all we can do. And again, hopefully give these blokes some confidence that we can challenge the opposition like we have been in recent weeks. Yes, a few names are going to change this week on the piece of paper, but top to bottom, from academy, reserves, first team, we're all playing quite similar, and we want to be challenging the opposition. So regardless of what the names are, I'm confident that whoever goes out there is going to give their all, and the result, of course I care about it, but I'm looking at that. That's going to be the KPIs, if you like, for us: the effort, the energy, and the willingness and the courage, really, to try and play rugby in spite what will be some tough periods throughout that game for some of our younger blokes.
You mentioned it after the Salford game, the performance in the second derby at Craven Park. How much do you feel the group has come on then in terms of the resiliency that they've shown, particularly during the last two and with the amount of injuries?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have, definitely. There was a point where we couldn't concede a penalty or do back-to-back sets without conceding early this season, so I think we have made some pretty decent steps forward in that regard. But we've got a lot against it. I sound like I'm making excuses, and I love to do that because this is the game, it happens. But it felt like we take some steps forward, and with the injuries we've got at the moment, it's pretty tough. But hopefully there's no steps back in the resilience and the ability to keep turning up for each other.
When you look at Hull KR, and Willie Peters is very strong on the defensive side of his team's game, but do you feel that there are chinks in their armour that you need to expose on Saturday, and if so, what are they?
I'm not going to give him a game plan, am I? No, look, it's not rocket science. Most teams play the same sort of plays. There's just little tweaks and differences in amongst it which you can try and take advantage of some traits and habits of the opposition as a collective, and obviously the individuals within, but there's nothing, it's not rocket science. It's not going to be special plans and plays to come up with these. We need to be good at our end of it. And that's been our focus for the last few weeks, really, making sure we get our game somewhere near. And last week we failed to do that. We were in the game through that resilience and the ability to keep turning up, which was great, but to actually take the points, you need to do your bit really well as well. So I think we'll just keep focusing on that for us.
I know you've not read too much into stats when we've spoken, but Rovers are looking to complete their first clean sweep in 15 years. How much stock do you put into that, and how much do you use that to motivate your group?
No interest whatsoever, to be honest. I know it's not nice for our fans to think that could happen, but sometimes you have to take your medicine and realise this is where we are as a club and a team at the moment. We're up against it, aren't we? But again, the aim is to go go out there swinging at the weekend and give it our best crack, despite, you know, whatever might be in front of us, the hurdles we've got internally, externally, not bothered. We just want to go and be proud of ourselves when we come off the field.
Simon, thanks for your time.
No worries.
Hey Grix, 3 months into a role now as head coach, obviously been.
I hate that role. So football, innit?
Yeah,
Interim,
it's
terrible.
Yeah. 3 months in your current role. I mean, how have you assessed it so far? Because you've been pretty modest about, you know, steps that you've been taking forward, but you look at performances. I think it's 10 games now. You know, barring one blip at London, been substantially better than what they were previously.
Yeah, I won't take credit for it. I think we were probably going to get this. I think we were going to get better. We were going to get better, irrespective of who was leading it. Just as the season, we obviously got some things wrong. That's why some decisions were made to move people on as we go. And then obviously bans when we were real keen on high tackles, which you could argue we're not as bothered about. Well, we are bothered about it, obviously as a game, but it's got a little bit looser. You know, all those bits and bobs, we didn't help ourselves. Some silly stuff in amongst it. We just had a really tough start to the year. I think we were always going to have a patch where once we got the blokes on the field, you know, as opposed to being injured or banned, and some consistency around that, I think it was going to get better. But we're still not where we want to be. I've enjoyed it. It's been hard, to be fair. Beard's getting greyer. A couple have commented today. But look, I've been doing it for a few years. It's very like Halifax in a lot of ways where I was before. Very good history as a club, steeped in history. You know, been in existence a very long time and been some really high highs along the way. So the expectation is up there. Halifax expectation, reality out of kilter. Yeah, I'd probably say very similar here at the moment. We still want to be up there, but the reality is we need to work our way back to that. So it's different. 2,000 opinions on a weekend at Halifax, with 20,000 every weekend here. You know what I mean? It's just scaled a bit differently, and obviously in terms of the coaching, it's an extra day, and another day if you like coaching. Because the content, those lads work really hard at part time. Most clubs try to dress it up the same as Super League, but it's all condensed after they've jumped out of the work gear on an evening and jump into it there. So I've enjoyed it. I've learnt loads on the run. I was learning on the run at Halifax, came here to learn under someone else, and obviously that didn't work out, but you know, we are where we are. I'll keep giving it everything every week to try and prepare these best we can, and not only for this year, but particularly them younger blokes, try and make an impact on them. I think when I first came, that was one thing I was really excited about. I'm not obviously Halifax. We had the reserves, but difficult in terms of pathway and development and try and bring people through. I remember my coach was, when I were on my way in, obviously Gas Chambers who was now the director of rugby at Warrington. He was assistant coach at Warrington when I went there as a kid, and he had a good impact on me, you know, Rich Marshall and so on and so forth. And you know, you remember those blokes, and if we can, myself, Franny, you know, and all the rest of the guys, we can make a good impact on them to start them off in a good fashion in their career. That's something to take away with you when it's all done.
Obviously, Emmanuel replaced Tony Smith, not just a colleague, he's a friend of yours. I mean, I know he was on Sky a few weeks ago for that Leeds game, and he spoke a few words about him. How much of a role has he had in your career in the last 3 months, and how often do you speak to him and just still rely on him for tips and tricks? Because the man's a genius, and he's been there and done
that.
They
so did well there, Sky, didn't they? Getting him in for that game. Interesting. Yeah, look, Tony coached me for a long time at Warrington, and for those who can't remember, it's a while ago now when I played. I spent probably as much time with the coaches as I did on the field because my body just was not made for rugby league, I don't think. So obviously more, as time went on, more injuries occurred, spent more time with him, become a bit more friendly, and I understand how he played. Obviously, I've coached him for so long, got a good understanding and very similar beliefs on the game and such, so the rugby side of it's always been easy. And yeah, he's been someone I've turned to, not only rugby decisions, but you know, chat things through with him about other stuff as well. Over the years, not just when he was coaching me, but you know, in that gap in between, and we've stayed in contact. I had to visit him when he was at KR. I've come visited here before when he was coaching here, and that won't change. I've given him a little bit of space after leaving here. We still I've spoken to him on phone a few times and text and whatnot. Called up with Stan as well, obviously along the way there, but yeah, it's not something I envisage changing. He's a very experienced bloke, and like Rowan going from Leeds, and you know, whoever's been who've gone from other places before. That's the sport and that's the way of it. When enough noise from the outside creeps in, it depends how long you can withstand it, or the powers that be can withstand it before they pull the change. So Tony, he gets that. I think he's still got a lot to offer. I'd love to see him back involved, but I know he's really excited about some other stuff that he's got going on in the background there. So yeah, he'll be there. He'll be there for some advice along the way, I'm sure.
Obviously, elaborating on a point you made at the start, you didn't want to take credit for Hull's improvement. Does Tony play a part in that as well? Because you said this was always going to happen. Obviously, an up-curve in form after the start of the year. So is that down to some of what Tony's implemented as well?
Yeah, I think Tony was willing to be patient. I think his understanding coming here was that he knew from the inside know where we're at and where we need to get to, and tempering that expectation is always going to be difficult. I think he tried to do that in line with where we sit as a club, or sat as a club at that time, but obviously took a different direction. Rich comes in, you've got potential investment at the club and all those things. The club might be changing its route of where it needs to get to or wants to get to. So he definitely played a good part in that, and so he's done a good job with these lads here. There's a lot of good that's happened from Tony. I think he's left it better than he's found it, which is where essentially you want to leave anywhere you go in sport or in any walk of life. You want to leave it in better condition than you found it. I think he did. I think circumstances are just probably a bit more difficult than people have realised on the outside to what it actually is.
Looking forward to Saturday's game. So you spoke a little bit about attacking and just trying to get that vibrant brand of rugby, if you like, from the start. Obviously, you mentioned the fact that obviously oppositions are more fresher. Obviously, minute 1, minute 80, that's obvious. But what are you looking for from your side to really take advantage and get the foothold on Rovers and make sure you're not chasing the game?
Score 4 in first 10. That'd be alright, wouldn't it? No, I think, what I'm sort of saying last week is a similar message to him. This one, you've got to play in shape, and you've got a bit of courage and pass and move the ball. If we get flustered by the opposition, because KR fit team, line speed, they're coming up to get you, and if you get flustered by that and you don't pull your passes, you're rarely getting one-on-ones, and that's the game essentially. The players might look fancy at times when there's loads of bodies moving, but they're not designed for you to score in the corner. That's probably the end role. The first bit is, can I get a one-on-one? Can he get a one-on-one? And it keeps going down the line until that last pass may occur. So, having that courage and being brave to pull that shape that we practice, as opposed to, I suppose, getting flustered and being a bit conservative and just trying to be safe. We need to be more than safe, which I think we were at Salford too much last week. So I think, if we can move the ball a bit this week and challenge the opposition, we'll give ourselves opportunities. That's the game.
One thing I did notice on Sunday is that the crowd, I think there was only about 300-500 of them, but they were right behind you. So I suppose if you get that from the start, it's a two-way thing. It can be quite powerful, especially in a derby, big crowd. So I suppose if you get them on side, that can only help your side to get the foothold and progress into the game. Yeah,
I think it can give lads a lift without a doubt. When they're in their moments where they're absolutely blowing, that bit of energy from the crowd can push you over a little bit. But it'd be nice to give them something to cheer about. Again, obviously lads are really grateful. I'm not on social media. I don't know if lads have out to say about it, but it's tough being a fan, isn't it, when your team's not winning. And ultimately, that's all we want. Everyone wants their team to win, and I say stuff when I'm watching England foot. I don't know anything about it. I put the ball in the net. That's about all I need to know. The strategy and all that, we can all debate like we think we know. We don't know. But it all comes from a good place, I think. So it's rewarding for them, irrespective of result, when you put in a good shift, I suppose, and they can all determine really whether that's happened or not. And it is appreciated at the end of the game, when they're hanging around to clap, particularly those young blokes, because it was tough early in the year. I'll go to Charlesy playing those games when we were up against it, when we got hammered, didn't we, a couple of times, and having to deal with the booing and that. They're not nice experiences for them. Hoping to avoid that for the rest of the year and hopefully give them something to cheer about instead of the boos.